Can I have your attention, please? Can I have your attention, please? Will the real Mr. Phelps please stand up? Watch at your own risk. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, all my viewers. It's wonderful to be back on the set of the Mr. Phelps Show. And today, we got something really great that will just blow your mind. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. And it's not just that. I normally come on the set and I interview one person. Today, I'm going to interview quite a few people because they each have their own story to tell. And it's quite amazing that they're followers and people that are part of the Canterbury Tales. So, before we get started with the show, let me just take a step back since I started real quick. I got my coffee, I got my literature. Gotta have the coffee. And, Canterbury Tales. Where do we start? So, gotta get another sip. Just jump starts my memory. So, Canterbury Tales. So, we have a guy named Geoffrey Chaucer who wrote this in the Middle Ages. It's about a motley crew, if you want to call them that, or a bunch of guys, some women too, a bunch of people who go out to the shrine of Thomas A. Becket. They're on a pilgrimage, and they're heading there. And before they go, they're stopping at the inn, and there's this wonderful host who probably has great coffee. But he's the host at the inn, and he offers them a storytelling competition. He says, whoever can tell me the best stories is going to win a free meal. And everybody's going to pitch in with their money and pay for that meal. So the idea was that Chaucer, our narrator, tells about a bunch of these characters and their stories. Even though he never finished the story itself, it's supposed to be 2 stories there on the journey, 2 stories when you come back for each person. They never really finished it, but Chaucer himself wrote a lot of the stories, and ultimately they were unfinished, but we have what it is today, quite masterpiece of the Middle Ages, the Canterbury Tales. And so, we're going to get a first-hand account of some of those travelers who went on the journey, so it's going to be great and exciting. So I just can't wait to talk to some of them. And normally, ideally we'll sit down and hear every one of their stories. But if I do that, we'll be here all night. And granted, I don't have enough coffee for that. I can't stay up that late. So, we're just going to, get a couple of the characters in, a bunch of the motley crew that's there. And just ask them some questions, maybe tap into their stories a little bit and hear from them, just so we can get a good idea of what their responsibility is for the Canterbury Tales. So, and their journey to the pilgrimage to the shrine in Canterbury. So, without further ado, before we get started, I want to let you in on our weather report for today with our friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps. Hello all, it's your friendly meteorologist, Mr. Phelps. I'm out here today looking at the beautiful weather behind me, and just reporting that it's, a beautiful spring day, as Chaucer would take it. When in April the sweet showers fall, and pierce the drought of March to the root and all, the veins are bathed in liquor of such power, as brings about the engendering of the flower. So there you have it, beautiful spring day. You hear the birds chirping, the sun's out. A little bit of rain here and there, but we can deal with that. It's spring, perfect time to play some sports, play some basketball, baseball, football, do any of these sports outside, maybe go kayaking or do some fun stuff there, and a little rain here and there, but it's perfect weather. You couldn't ask for better. And you know what they always say: April showers bring May flowers, and May flowers, they bring pilgrims. And this is the time for the pilgrimage to the great Canterbury, and most pilgrimages during the spring. It's April, and we're going to meet the pilgrims going to Canterbury, so let's get to it. All right, that was quite the weather report. Thank you, Mr. Phelps, our friendly meteorologist, for your weather report today. Now we're going to really look at these characters. We're each going to be flowing in any minute. We'll take a couple at a time, and just be alarmed that they are travelers from, say, the 1300s, the 14th century. So they're not going to be driving in cars here. They're going to be riding on horses. It's just the way the people traveled those days. They all traveled this pilgrimage all on horses. So just don't find it a little strange, okay? I'm just warning you. It might look a little strange, but really they're just doing what they normally do, and So we'll just get to it. We'll hear our first contestant right now, the very wonderful, gallant, chivalrous knight. I see him coming in right now. Come on, come on. Awesome, awesome. Here he is, guys. Put your hands together for the knight. We know how chivalrous you are, and we're going to talk to you, ask you some questions, so great job. Awesome, awesome. Hello, hello. Thank you. I am your knight in shining armor. Thank you, thank you. Excellent, excellent. And this is my gallant steed. All right, so we have the knight here, and we're ready to go. So, without further ado, I'm going to ask you some questions. All right, you ready? I want to thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. This is an amazing opportunity to come here and be your knight in shining armor. So we have the wonderful knight here. You're one of Chaucer's favorite characters. I mean, we obviously can tell you're the first character that he alludes to, the first one that you tell the story. So he obviously likes you. I mean, he says some amazing things about you. Let me open up to the page, since I'm kind of the Chaucer freak here, and we'll read up on you, the knight here. Okay, so but nonetheless, while I have time and space before my story takes a further pace, it seems a reasonable thing to say what their condition was, the full array of each of them as it appeared to me, according to profession and degree, and what apparel they were riding in, and at a knight I therefore will begin. And that's you. All right, so there was a knight, a most distinguished man, who from the day on which he first began to ride abroad had followed chivalry, truth, honor, generous, and courtesy. He had done nobly in his sovereign's war, and ridden into battle no man more, as well in Christian as in heathen places, and ever honored for his noble graces. Yeah, so I do exhibit those traits. I'm chivalrous, I'm adventurous. If I ever saw a princess in a tower, I'd be the one to bam, 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 that dragon and save her. I mean, it's all gonna be good, because I'm gonna save the day. So there you have it. Chaucer puts you in great regards there, and I just I'm a little perplexed by this, because I see you coming in, and no offense, but you look kind of like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. I mean, I didn't expect that from the knight. I thought your armor would be a little shinier, just to say. Yeah, so I know you think my armor's cheap and all, but this is great. It holds up really well. I've been through a lot of different battles. If you read about all the battles in Chaucer's Tales there, he talks about me being a wonderful knight who travels, who's well traveled, who's done great things and won great battles, and I couldn't have done it without this armor. So as bad as it looks, it's great. I mean, no one's gonna sack me with this armor on. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I mean, no disrespect. I wasn't trying to disrespect you. I just didn't expect your attire to be so lackluster compared to what is said about you here. So I really do apologize if I've crossed that line, but you know, it does seem a little bit alarming that you're looking like a Tin Man. Excellent, excellent. So moving on. I know your story's the first story calls on you. The host calls on you to tell your first story. Since you're kind of the guy up there, the top man of nobility. So they want to start with you. You know, the wonderful knight. Again, you know, change your armor a little bit. You know that you obviously didn't wear your first rate armor here, but next time you do, you know. That's what they regard you as, the distinguished knight who's kind of on top, the master of nobility. You're starting our stories off, so I know you had a story about the typical courtly love tale, if I may start. I mean, it's the most typical story you'd expect from somebody up top. You know, it's a love story where, you know, you got to win the girl and you have two guys fighting, coming out, seeing who comes on top. It's very typical. You got a very good story. You know, I think it's a strong one. What do you think? And yes, I always try to do the best. I mean, my story's about, you know, it's a love story, a typical love story. It's very chivalrous. I mean, it's not your everyday story about, you know, like what you're gonna see with the miller who comes next and, you know, rudely tries to make fun of my story. It's actually my story makes a lot more sense. It's the story everyone would want to hear about love. It's a true love story. So. Let me ask you, you really are the man of chivalry, truth, honor, freedom, courtesy. We definitely see that in you. I'm not going to deny that. Chaucer wrote about it. What makes you so special to lead the pack here? You know, the pack of everybody going on this trip. Like, what's in it for you? So what's in it for me? You know, I just want to tell people how great these adventures are, how great it is to be chivalrous and save the world and help people out. You know, it's just great to be involved in something like this, to share my accomplishments and to help the common good. And of course, until you have people that kind of interrupt and throw the stories off. I know I'm high up there with nobility, you know, even though my armor might not seem like it's the greatest, it's some of the best protection I've ever had, and you know, it's good to be that chivalrous knight and tell people the right thing to do. And if I can't win the storytelling competition telling people the right thing to do, then I don't know. I guess it's not for me, because I need to tell the good story to save the common good. That's what I do as a knight, and I think that's really how Chaucer and the hosts really look at it, to call me first. So yeah. Excellent, excellent. So I do appreciate your time here. I know I wish I could ask you more questions, but we got several more contestants that are coming here to share their time. So I do need to ask you to say goodbye, and we'll escort you out. Don't forget your horse. You know, you left your horse here. Better take good care of him and send him along as well. And we wish you all the luck on your journey to Canterbury. So thank you, thank you. I thank you for having me. I really do. This has been a great time to come and share my story with you. You know, your knight in shining armor. It looks fantastic. So I must be getting going now. I do appreciate you. I'm going to take my noble steed with me, my wonderful horse, and I'm going to say adieu. Excellent, excellent, guys. Let's give him a round of applause, the knight in shining armor, as we shall say, okay? Let's give him a round of applause. Take care, my friends. Excellent. Excellent. So we've met with our knight, probably our number one top-notch guy, as they say, the guy of nobility, the guy who has the highest social class. So now we're going to kind of move along, and we'll go to the miller next, who's not really a well-liked guy, very much lower class type guy, but he does interrupt the next guy in line to tell his story next. So he's kind of the guy that we're going to, you know, story number 2, even though it's kind of out of position, but we'll welcome the miller anyway. So I think he's coming now, so let's give him a round of applause, or you can boo him if you want to, because Chaucer didn't really like him, but let's give him a round of applause anyway. Let's welcome the miller in. Okay, I get that there. Okay, let's be nice now. Okay, I know you're a little bit disgruntled, but take your seat. I got some questions for you. It's you know, we're gonna have a good time here today. Okay, so. Yeah, I know you might be a little upset, but you know, time to calm down, okay? You know, I'm a scrawny guy, you're a nice big warrior, and I don't need any of that coming my way. So let's handle it pretty peacefully, all right? Excellent.
Hello, everyone. I am your miller, the big and burly miller guy.
So, Mr. Miller, sir, and I do ask this in the most polite way I can without getting a punch thrown my way, or, you know, without getting fighting, because I know you're one of those wrestler guys who can really tear anybody apart. So please, just take this with the nicest grain of salt, or however the phrase goes. But you know, Chaucer here, the author of the Canterbury Tales, doesn't really describe you too well. Let me open up to how he describes you in here, but he definitely talks, like, I know off the top of my head, he talks about you being big, your nose weirdly shaped, having a wart on your face. It's not really particularly light. So let me open up to the page here. So I just want to see what your feeling is about that, because he doesn't really treat you very nicely at all. So if I can find you, yeah, it's taken a while. I know you're pretty down low on this list.
Oh, you're really asking for me to throw a punch your way, aren't you? You better pipe it down. You know, I'm very strong. You want to arm wrestle? Ah!
Hate to say that, you know, I'm going to get beaten up by the time this is over. I know it. This wrestler's going to be on me. Here it is. There was also a Reeve, also Miller. Okay, oh, here it is. The Miller was a chap of 16 stone, a great stout fellow, big and brawn and bone. He did well out of them, for he could go and win the ram at any wrestling show. Broad, knotty, and short-shouldered, he would boast. He could have any door off hinge and post. Man, this sounds like a rap. Take a run and break it with his head. His beard, like any sower fox, was red and broad as well as though it were a spade, and at its very tip his nose displayed a wart on which there stood a tuft of hair, red as the bristles in an old sow's ear. His nostrils were as black as they were wide. He had a sword and a buckler at his side. His mighty mouth was like a furnace door. Wrangler and buffoon, he had a store of tavern stories, filthy in the main. He was a master hand at stealing grain. He felt it with a thumb, and thus he knew its quality, and took 3 times his due. A thumb of gold, by God, to gauge an oat. He wore a hood of blue and white coat. He liked to play his bagpipes up and down, and that was how he brought us out of town. So that's Chaucer's description, a little sped up with a little rap, which makes me a little more thirsty. Anyway, Mr. Miller, can you kind of tell me how you feel about that description without throwing a punch my way, please? Because I'm only reading what Chaucer, the narrator, tells us. So please do give us a little insight into what you feel about that, okay?
I know this guy Chaucer. He thinks he's so great, putting me in such a bad light, calling me ugly, and calling me all these names, but you know what? I'm still a very burly, strong man, and I can, tear down doors and do things that he shouldn't say, because you never know. I'm a big man, and that's where I come from. I'm very strong.
I do think Chaucer is definitely a little unfair. I mean, he should give you a chance. I know you're a little bit much lower class than, say, the Grand Knight that we just had, but he should give everyone a fair chance, right? I mean, you're all going on this journey, and he is kind of rather mean to you, but he also says that you do kind of things that aren't really nice. Like, I mean, you steal grain and things like that. Let me go to that description here. It says, if I can find it, his was a master hand at stealing grain. So there you go, master hand at stealing grain. How do you really feel about that? I mean, Chaucer puts you in the lower class. He calls you out for stealing stuff, and he doesn't regard you in the same way he regards the knight.
I do what I need to do. I don't mean to steal grain, but sometimes you have to do what you have to do in life. And like I said, you say I'm very much lower class, and it's what I have to do to survive. And I'm a big man. I must use my brute strength.
So I must ask, they say you're also a wrestler. How strong are you? Could you tear a door down or something? I heard the rumor was that you could tear doors down. I mean, that sounds pretty impressive. Can you tell us more about that?
How strong am I? I'll show you how strong I am. Rah! I'm very strong. I can lift up this table. I can lift up this horse above my head. That's how strong I am. My horse above my head.
Excellent, Mr. Miller. I really appreciate your time, and I must ask, so the last thing about your story, I know you interrupted the monk to tell your story. You jumped out of place. You were kind of upset about the night, and you threatened to leave if your story wasn't told. So that's why the host kind of let you go. Very rudely on your part. Better be careful saying that. But so it turns out your story is a fabulous, which is kind of like a comedy, a humorous love story that really changed the perspective of the night story. And I know you wanted to throw in your comedy there. So why did you want to jump in at that time to tell your story? I mean, how does it feel relatable to the knights? I mean, he has the chivalrous love story, the typical, save the princess kind of love story, and yours is just a humorous love story that really doesn't make much sense. It's just, it's just thrown into there. It's a comedy that's just coming out of nowhere. So, what's your take on that?
Why did I jump in? Well, let me put it this way. This knight here, he thinks he's so chivalrous, he thinks he's so great, but you know what? His story was pretty lame. I mean, come on, it's a typical story that everybody has. The knight saves the princess. We've heard that story so many times, and the knight wins true love. We need something new. And my story was so funny. I mean, you got so much in there about the lovers and people farting and doing funny things that, people love my story because it's funny. They don't want to hear another chivalrous knight story. Yes, he might be good at what he does, being chivalrous, but he's not funny. And so my story is very funny. It's comical. It's going to get me that meal. And that's what I want to win. So, so you don't have to keep on telling me I'm stealing grain.
Excellent. Well, Miller, I'm looking at time here. I wish I had more time to ask you some questions, but I got to send you along now. We got plenty of contestants coming, and please, if you can please go without throwing a punch my way, I would be really appreciative, because you're a big guy, and I know, I'm just the messenger here. I'm reading what Chaucer wrote and just sharing it with our crowd here. So if you could please find your exit, take your beautiful horse with you, which I don't know how that horse can hold you. You're such a big guy. I mean, I feel bad for that horse's back, but if you can take him along and treat him nicely, give him some hay or some of the grain you took, you should give him some of that. Wow, I know. I should be careful right now. I'm gonna get beaten up. Anyway, Miller, have a good day. We will wish you along, and thank you for coming. Let's give him, guys. Let's give him a round of applause. All right. I know he's not very well liked on Chaucer's list, but round of applause. All right. Round of applause. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Take care now, Miller.
I want to thank you. Thank you for having me here today on the Mr. Phelps Show. This has been fun, and I'm gonna win that storytelling competition because I tell funny stories, okay? And I'm big and burly and rah. All right, so I really appreciate it, and I better get going on my noble steed. Here we go.
So yeah, we're just getting going. As you can tell, this coffee's making me talk faster and faster. I think I gotta slow down, take a breather. You know, that guy really made me nervous. He's a big burly guy, and he's got a big red beard, and you know, can just see a punch coming my way. But thankfully, we're not gonna run into that too much because we got the merchant coming next, and it's going to be a little bit different perspective than, say, the Millers. So let's get ready to hear from the merchant. All right. I see the merchant coming in now. I see him on his horse. He's bringing his horse with him. Come on, let's come in. You can sit right here. Excellent. Let's give a round of applause for the merchant, guys. Merchant, thank you. Excellent. Come and sit right in our seat right here. We're glad to have you here. We're going to have a great time today asking you some questions about your stories and whatnot. So, you know, thank you for coming on our show. I know you like my mare very much. I mean, I must say, I bought him at an expensive farm, so he is quite the horse that you can ride along in. Very expensive, chipped a little bit into my pocket there. Anyway, I am the merchant, and I'm here to join the Mr. Phelps Show. I'm not quite sure why I invested my time here, but I decided to come along for the fun, so here I am. Alright, merchant, I gotta move this along a little bit. First, I must say, your attire is really dazzling there. It looks like it's really kind of out of place, but I guess that's what we'd expect from a merchant. I mean, what do? You go to thrift shops and you buy your outfits? I mean, preposterous. You think my clothes are from a thrift shop? I mean, where have you been trending? You better check those stock markets. I mean, this is the highest end stuff that you could possibly get around. You might not like the look of it, but you're not going to get anything better and more snazzy than this. I mean, this is hightail stuff right here. I mean, kind of put me a little bit in debt, I must say. No, I wasn't trying to make fun of you, but we all know that little secret about you, that Chaucer describes you as part of the upper middle class, but he hides the fact that you are seriously in debt. You're seriously in debt. So, you know, I do wonder, where do you get your clothes? Like, where do you get all this bling that you wear that's so, like, popular, so outrageous, that kind of just shows out to the public? I mean, you know, it's kind of miraculous that you're wearing, you know, all these zany clothes that you have on. It's like, you had to have gone to some thrift shops there. I mean, there's no way you could afford something like that, which, by the way, is not really a great outfit anyway. Yeah, well, you know. Yeah, I'm a trendy guy. You know, I buy a lot of stuff, sir. You know, my mare right here. I got this shirt here, this hat. You know, this stuff is expensive, and you know, one man's debt is another man's treasure, and that's how I live the life. You know, upper middle class. You got to invest in things, but in all honesty, Chaucer really doesn't know what he's talking about. I think he's very much overrated guy there, and you know, I still get the highest trends and spend my investments on a lot of things here. I know, I'll probably get hammered for that one, but it's just very odd of you to wear something like that. It's very unordinary. You know, it's unusual, but where, do you go to thrift shops to get your clothes? Because I know you've been in debt for a long time.
Of course I don't go to thrift shops. Didn't you catch my drift already, sir? I mean, this has gone on too long. If you want to get some real clothes, you go to the right places. No thrift shops. I mean, I know you don't like my sweater. I think you've made that abundantly clear, but you're not looking so great yourself, sir.
I know you're a very cynical guy. I can tell by your response there, but you are at least you're a little bit better attitude than the miller, so I do appreciate that. And you do try your merchant, but I could never tell how you are that cynical from such an exuberant outfit you're wearing. I mean, you look very vibrant in the way you are, but you really carry yourself as somebody who's kind of higher up there, higher class. But we all know your dark little secret about you being in debt. So, we can't really look at you that way. You are the cynical guy there. So, hate to break it to you.
Cynical? Man, I mean, that Chaucer is out there. I mean, I'm a realist, okay? I look at things like reality. I got big money, and I use my pocket to get things, and I let people know what's available. So, to call me cynical, I'm cynical because I'm a realist, and I look at things as a reality, and some people don't like that, but there's plenty of that do.
You have a wife, and apparently she didn't treat you so well. It's probably because of that shirt you're wearing.
Yeah, Chaucer, again, here's a guy who makes a lot of accusations. I know he gets on me because I talk a lot about my wife who hasn't treated me very well, but, that's just the way life is. I live my life, I work my business, I get my mare, I get these valuable things, and, people don't like that. They take a little jealousy there, and they call me out for the only one thing that I complain about occasionally, and that's, that was my wife, and women, yes, I understand. Some things don't work out, but, why do they take it so far?
So, I hear Chaucer's very critical about you when it comes to marriage. He says that you don't really like marriage, and so he's very critical of you. He makes you seem ever more cynical. So that's just how he describes you. He's not very liking so much. I mean, he describes you as upper middle class, but he has this little separation from you because of the fact that you don't like marriage, just because your wife hasn't been treating you nicely, and even your story highlights the perspective of somebody who's in a relationship with somebody who doesn't treat him correctly. So why do you keep bringing this up? I mean, you're just being more cynical to yourself. Don't you realize that?
Yeah, I bring it up because it's just it's a realist story. People need to know reality, and there have been occasions where women haven't been so nice to their husbands, and it really should be known to the public what's going on here. You've heard the phrase "money can't buy me love," and it's kind of like that. I could be a realist and I get all these things, but sometimes it does come up empty, and it's very aggravating when there's things that you can't buy and things that you don't want to turn out that way because people are being deceitful and not friendly.
I get it. I realize that you aren't so interested in marriage because of how you've been treated in the past with your wife, but you can't let that be the end-all be-all. I mean, you are a prosperous merchant, or so they say, without debt. I know secretly you're in debt, but, just, you got to get over that, man. You can't bring it to the table. You're not going to win this competition if you're just talking about, unlawful marriages and women mistreating men in relationships. It's just not the way to go about this competition. You're very cynical, and that people don't want to read a story like that. Let me tell you, man.
Look, I've said it before, I'll say it again, all these clothes, the trends, my horse, my mare, I'm a realist. I
I look at how people are in life, and I invest in what I need to invest. It puts me a little overboard, but you know what? You get the money back by business, and it comes back to you. So, you know, my story will be very well into the Canterbury Tales. My story will fare very well because people want a realist approach, okay? You got the knight here who's very unrealistic. I mean, how many people can be as chivalrous as that guy? And then you got the miller who is just, who knows what the guy's talking about. You can't even understand his story. But my story, it's a realist story, you know. Wives turn on their husbands. It happens in life, and, you know, it's happened multiple times. It's happened to me. It's a realist story, and people want the realist stuff, and they know they can get it from me with all the trendy stuff I got here, you know? So it's quite the scenario for others to invest in, if you know what I mean. Alright, well, I thank you for having you, and I do encourage you to really think about your next few stories, how you want them to go, because, you know, keeping this cynical story about marriages that don't work out, and women not being nice to their husbands and things like that, they don't get you very far. So you really need to rethink your process here and what you're bringing to the table. So I do wish you luck. So take care. I got some others that I got to welcome into the show. So take care. Wish you the best of luck on this competition, and we'll see you along. So thank you for coming. Thank you, thank you. Well, I want to thank you for having me on the show, and thank you for making fun of my terrible sweater that you thought was terrible, but, you know, it's actually quite high trend. I need to say that again, but I thank you for having me on the show. I must be going now. I got big business front, and it's time for me to take care. Come on, my mare, let's go. We're off. We're off to big business. Let us go now. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Come one, come all, step right up. You are now invited to the Canterbury horse race. The Canterbury horse race, a fun family time for everybody. And that's exactly what the boys did when they got really bored on their way to Canterbury. They stop telling stories, they start riding horses. You can join in today. Now, only for a limited time.
Excellent. So we've had 3 contestants so far. I got a couple more coming. Couple more coming to share in the fun. So next we got the Reeve. He's a very skinny and bad-tempered guy from what I hear. Very old too. He's got this white hair, and but he is a little bit up there on the scale. You know, I probably skipped him. I should have done him a little bit earlier, had him come in quicker, but you know what, it's just the luck of the draw here. You know, we don't social class as much as, say, Chaucer does, but the Reeve, you know, he's upper class, thereabouts, but he comes off maybe not so much. But anyway, I see him coming in now, so come on, Reeve. I know you're very old, and I hope your horse isn't as old as you are, but that's just the way it is. You got the white hair, and what you're doing with that, I don't know, but come and take a seat, you know? Come and take a seat. Getting too old for this job. I don't know why somebody woke me up and brought me to this show. I'm getting too old for this. I am an older man, you can see. I am Oswald the Reeve. I guess I'm here. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm here. Excellent, excellent. So, Reeve, so I heard that you were once a carpenter, and now you're kind of coming in and sharing your story because the miller made fun of you. He made fun of carpenters in his story. The story was about, that love story where the carpenter, I think, fell from the ceiling, was it? And he really made carpenters look bad, and you were once a carpenter, and you really took offense to that. So can you please tell us a little bit about that? Yeah, so it's not that I was putting my profession in a good light, sir. It was that I was taking the miller's story and putting him in a bad light, per se, because he really made fun of the carpenter, and I used to be a carpenter, and back in my heydays I was a carpenter, and he made fun of carpenters in his story, so I had to fight back and put the miller in there, because this guy, this miller, he thinks he's so powerful, he thinks he's so cocky, so cool, that he thinks he's saying the right thing, putting a carpenter in his story in a bad light. But carpenter's much higher on the scale than, say, a miller, so had to put him in a bad light after he made fun of me, and that's where this comes from. Yes, I see. It really brought out your bad temper that you have, and I must apologize that I'm saying that, but we all know you have a bad temper, and we know you own estates too, so we know you're kind of high up there on the chain, even though you used to be a carpenter. You could have just let that drop and just taken the estate and said you were an estate man and just dropped the whole carpenter thing. I mean, you didn't really need to go that step. I mean, Miller's a big guy. He almost came on my show and knocked me out, so you got to be careful there. I mean, you don't want to mess with that guy. So, anyway, they do say you own estates, but why do you still steal from your Lord? They say you still steal things from your Lord, even though you own an estate. Doesn't that put you at the same level as the miller? What do you think about that? You're so critical of the miller. He's critical of you, but then, just like him, you steal, even though you're higher class. So what do you think about that? Now, I stole once or twice, maybe. It wasn't typical. I don't know how Chaucer finds out this stuff. He's like kind of the guy who sneaks up on us and tells us, it's like, I've done bad once or twice, but this miller here, he does it all the time. He makes a living off of stealing grain and doing things like that. I mean, it's terrible what he does. And I still own these big estates, so it's not like I'm, out to make a living off of stealing things like the miller does. It's just, it happens a couple times, and I didn't always mean, but, I don't know why you pin me for this stuff. It's so cruel that I get called for a lot of this stuff. No one knows the truth anyway. Alright, Reeve, well, I gotta tell you, I thank you for coming on our show. I know your temper isn't the greatest, and you're probably a little bit upset with some of the accusations that were made here by Chaucer, but, and you think I'm on the same level as the miller? I mean, come on. I own estates. I was a carpenter. Even as a carpenter, I was higher than the miller. Just the way it is. Just the way the cookie crumb rolls, if you want an expression there. We do thank you for coming on the show, and I need to usher you along now because I need some time with our final contestant. There's only so much time of the day, so I must thank you. All right, go along now, and take good care of that horse that you have on that journey, and we wish you the best. I appreciate being here. I don't know why I'm here. I'm just telling my story. I am the Reeve, telling my story about the bad miller, and I joined this storytelling competition hopefully to win, but it really just became where I needed to stand up for myself and my profession because it's been harmed by this miller, and he is so out of line. It's not even ridiculous. And yes, I do fear him, but you know what? I'm not too worried, because the minute that he goes and tries to get out of line, I think everybody else will pick it up and go after him. He's a guy that is not very well liked on this trip, to say the least. So
and he's a bit cranky himself, so he's got a lot to learn. So I think other people will join me in resisting him if he continues to do this further. So I'm not too scared, a little bit maybe, because he's big and powerful, but not too much, and I think I'll be alright. So anyway, I thank you for having me. It's about time I go. It's getting late. It's time for me to take a nap before we continue on our adventure. Thank you. I appreciate you all having me, and I must get going now.
Thank you, thank you. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you all. Excellent, excellent, awesome. All right, so we'll see you later, Reeve. We'll see you later. Thank you. Our next contestant coming in today, I see him coming in right now.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so here he is. They call him the skipper, the shipman, the sailor. He's all three of those things. And here he is. Surprised he's not riding, a boat. He's more riding a horse. I guess he can't ride a boat on this journey, but come, take a seat, shipman. How you doing?
Well, ahoy mateys, it's me, the shipman, and I'm glad to be here, to be off of my swashbuckling boat and into the Mr. Phelps show. It's just a great pleasure to be here, and it's I have a lot to share with you guys about my stories of my life.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it's great to have you here. Great to have you here, and I know you're very much related to the merchant that is on this journey as well, that I hear you take hold of his ship there, and you drive his ship, and you basically live on that ship, except you're not really the captain. We all know that.
Yeah, well, you can see my buckles, my swashbuckling costume, and I'm a shipman, and that's just how I am, and I guess I need to learn to be a little bit more of a landlubber and investigate the place around me, because that's why I came on the Canterbury Tales, to get off my ship for a while, become a little bit more of a landlubber, and discover some things around here. So it'll be great. So enjoy my story. It's gonna be a great story, and hopefully I win and move up in the ranks.
But I must say, your hat's looking pretty snazzy. I mean, you wear the title of a captain. You wear that around to make it look like you're a captain. But even though you're much lower in the class compared to everyone else, very low class. I hate to say that, but it's true. I mean, you're basically a shipman. You're one of the guys on the ship. I mean, they say you get into a lot of fights there. What do you think of that?
Man, you really have a tendency to put a lot of people in a bad light, don't you, Mr. Phelps here? I mean, I've been paying attention to your show, and this is the fifth person, me, and you've said all not so great things about all of us. But anyway, I am a skipper, and yes, I have gotten into some fights. That's how I ended up getting this stub for an arm. It's not fun, but when you're a poor man on a ship, sometimes that's the only way you get out of things is causing fights and stealing wine on the ship to survive. So it's not much that I'm proud of, but it's how I get by with life. I'm a shipman, I'm skipper. I know the seas better than any other man though. I can travel, and I can be the captain of your ship.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how you got that stub. I mean, you're probably talked to the wrong guy, and they say you steal a lot of wine and get into fights, and that's probably why you got a stub for a hand. I mean, that's not fun, man. But you got to be careful there. It's not safe on those ships, and you can't be acting like the captain, like you own the ship. I know the merchant kind of put you on there, but you don't own the ship. He does. I don't know how he does. He's in debt, but he owns it. And really, you could be causing some of his debt, so you got to be careful there. I mean, you're just a shipman, so you got to be careful. You already got the hook, and who knows what's going on next. So you think I'm causing the merchant's debt? Well, it might be true, but not really. I mean, the merchant causes his own debt, and he's got some money in his pocket in a lot of other places. I just kind of man the ship, and I do my job, and that's who I am. You know, I'm the shipman. I know I'm not considered very high up there on Chaucer's map or whatever, Chaucer's group of people, but that's okay, you know. Some of us lowly men still have some great stories to tell, and I can still win this competition by telling one of the better stories, even if I am very lowly, a peasant on the scale. But again, I fight for my rights. I'm a shipman, I know the seas, and I know them better than anybody else, and I use that to my advantage. Anyway, yeah, so you're in the peasant class, we know that, so, you know, so you want to tell us a little bit about your story here? So you want to know a bit about my story. Well, you know, it's about a merchant, his wife, you know, some debt that she gets. She's not really fond of her marriage, and so the monk pays her some money from debt, but it comes from the merchant. So you get this whole relationship between three people, and it gets to be a little messy, but that's my story. Anyway, you should read it, should like it. It's going to be one of the best Canterbury tales of all times as we travel on this journey. And why have I traveled on this journey? Well, you know, I want to rise in the ranks. You know, I've been a shipman. It's good to know the seas, but it's also good to know all the routes where you can travel with your horse and people and the merchants, and good to know. The more knowledge you have, the more power. So yeah, just remember, man, that you're not the captain, okay? You gotta get that mindset. You're just one of the crew guys on the ship, and you know, I hate to break it to you, but Chaucer doesn't put you very high in his list. You're actually very low. You're probably one of the last guys mentioned, and so it's not a surprise that your story is very much overlooked. But anyway, you know, I appreciate you coming on here. I think that's a great hat you got there. I think somehow you and the knight must have switched like wardrobe places, because he got pretty much the second-rate costume here, and you got the captain hat. So I don't know how that works, but you know, it is the Canterbury Tales, so something could be weirder. You never know. This is about as weird as it gets, having you guys coming on my show. So anyway, I want to thank you. Take good care of your horse, and see you along now. We'll wish you a good time here, and you know, enjoy yourself. It's been great having you. Thank you. Thank you. All right, well, I want to thank you for having me on here. I appreciate it as we rise in the ranks and we travel on the Canterbury Tales. Be sure to hear my story, and it'll be all good, and I better take my horse and get going because I got to get back to the group. All right? I thank you all. Take care now. Excellent. Let's give him a round of applause, guys. Round of applause for the shipman. Remember, take good care of yourself. Don't get stuck for the other hand. You know, you got to stay clear of that wine and those fights. Excellent, excellent, awesome. Well, we'll take care now. Have a good one. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. All right, guys. So that concludes. We met 5 characters from the Canterbury Tales. Coffee never stops tasting good. Anyway, so we've met 5 characters. You know, we could go on with more and more, but that's it for today. I think we've done enough of the Canterbury Tales. We've met a lot of the guys, and we're going off and watching them tell their stories. I can't wait to hear what they come back with, and let's see if they get anything out of the pilgrimage. I think a lot of these guys aren't as faithful as you'd expect them to be in the religious class of the 13th century, 14th century. So, you know, let's see what they get out of it, but at least we're going to have some unique stories to tell. I think, you know, we already got quite a few here. So everyone, I want to thank you for watching my show today and coming and seeing 5 contestants, not just 1 but 5, all horsemen who came from the Canterbury Tales. It's been great to hear from them. So without further ado, I just want to say thank you, and thank you for watching the Mr. Phelps Show. Tune in next time for bringing more literature to life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Have an excellent day. Excellent day. Excellent.